Hey everyone, I'm excited to share with you one of my favorite tools in trading, ExoCharts. And if you're not familiar, what it is, it's a footprint chart for Bitcoin derivatives. Actually, it can be used with some altcoins as well. But I really enjoy the power of this tool because it allows me to see behind the scenes and see exactly what has happened versus a candlestick chart. You can only derive so much information from that. ExoCharts or footprint charts in general give you a real edge in the market, and you can get real down and dirty into what has actually happened. So with that being said, I've created a couple of slides here, and then we are going to go into ExoCharts and look at the basic interface so that you can play around with it and see if this is something you're interested in. Okay, functionality and purpose. ExoCharts offers abundant and precise customizable information that most market participants don't have. We can infer much more than our competition with this information and thus make more informed decisions and derive a much more accurate picture of what is happening in the market. What I mean by this is that trading is obviously a competition. You know that. It's a zero-sum game, and some will even say it's less than a zero-sum game because you have to pay fees even when you lose and when you win. So what we're looking at is any way to get more information to make better decisions. And the more information and patience you have, the better of a trader you will be. And you can make much better and more well-informed decisions when you look at ExoCharts versus just looking at a basic candlestick pattern chart. And we will get into that and what kind of edge this offers here in just a little bit. The key insights that a footprint chart offers, in my opinion, and there's many of them, but these are my favorite ones. And I put at the very top, it will vary depending on your perception of the market, which is true, because all this is customizable information, and it depends on what your edge is and what you're looking for in the market. For example, if you're looking for a place with high volatility or a lot of liquidations, or if you're looking at the VWAP, you may set up your charts differently to get extra information. So it all depends on what you're looking for as a trader and what your strategy is. This will amplify your strategy and make it much better, and it will, if you use it right, it will allow you to hold on to your winners longer and to get out of your losers faster, which is only half. Being on the right side of the market is only half of a trader's job. The other half is going to be knowing when you're wrong and cutting your losses, and then also holding on to your winners to maximize your gains. If you don't know how a market really moves, you are not going to be successful. Okay, so it also shows the long and short open interest, which, if you're not familiar, is the amount of long contracts and short contracts that are open at any given time, and that you can derive a lot of really good information from that. It shows all market order volume. So let's be clear about something up front. This does not show limit orders. It shows aggressive market participants. So in other words, people that are just going on to their exchange and clicking the red and green button. And you can derive a lot of information from that as well. So for example, if you see a lot of people selling and the market participants are selling really hard and in high volume, but price isn't going down, you can infer that there is someone there with a big limit order that's absorbing all of that market selling. So keep that in mind. There's a lot of good information you can see. You can see buyer and seller sentiment. You can see the liquidation information. You can see where people are getting liquidated, which, if you've been around this market, you know that happens every second because people are highly over leveraged. You can see the delta, the volume, the trade size records. What I mean by the trade size records are you can separate it out and see what the people with $1 million are doing, and the people that are doing like less than 7,000 contracts are doing. So you can separate the bigger players from the small fries, and you can compare and contrast what they're doing and you can base strategies around that. You can also export the footprint bar statistic data into an Excel file, and then if you're good with Excel, you can run it through certain what's the word I'm looking for? You can run it through certain formulas and maybe get some good information from that as well. With all that being said, I want to jump into a screen sharing type demonstration where I can go over the interface of ExoCharts and you can really see if it's something you might be interested in. Okay, here we are. Welcome to ExoCharts. I'm going to go ahead and take some of these things off so we can start from a place that you're probably familiar with. Let's go ahead and take all this stuff out of here. Okay, this should look pretty familiar to you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start in the top left corner and work my way to the right, going over a brief explanation of what all these things are and what they do. Sorry about that. And I'm going to go down here on the left hand side after I finish all of this. And by the end of it, hopefully you will have a very solid framework to be able to start playing around with this stuff yourself. So let's start in the top left with this profile thing. That's going to show you, if you click on it, it will show you some personal information about your subscription status and also some other how-tos and like just some basic info. I'm not going to click on it now because it's just kind of irrelevant. It really doesn't have a lot to do with trading itself. It's more about how to use the platform and your own email addresses and things like that. This next thing over here is going to be, if you click on it, it will show you the different exchanges in blue that they offer data on. And under that, it will show you the different pairs. So for example, you have BitMEX, Bybit, OKX, FTX, and Binance Futures. Now, how you're going to want to decide which exchange you use, you could say, well, if I'm trading on BitMEX, well, I want to use BitMEX data, right? Well, not necessarily, because Bybit has more volume, and I feel like at this current time, Bybit is more relevant than BitMEX. And so I always use the Bybit information. But there's some interesting information for some altcoins on FTX that is not available on Bybit, and it really is just subjective. It's up to you, but I like to use Bybit because it has the most volume, and I feel like it's the most relevant exchange for the market I like to trade, which is the perpetual future. Okay, now that should all make sense. Here in this next thing is where we're going to start to really step away from traditional candlestick charting. Okay, so if you click here, oops, sorry, wrong one. Right here is where we're going to start stepping away. The tick, I'll get into that in a second. Okay, so we are probably used to seeing candles print via time. So for example, a candle will print every hour on the hour, or every 4 hours, or every day, or every week, regardless of volume and delta. It will just print to show you what has happened during that time frame. Now, where we start to step away is we can, instead of worried about time, we can worry about things like delta and volume or range. And what that means is a candle will print every time that the specified delta has happened. So if you're looking at a delta of 7 million, let's click on that, the candlesticks are going to look way different because you're only printing a candle, even though this is the same market, you're only printing a candle every time the delta is a negative 7 million. So that means, or positive 7 million. So that means there have been more or less buyers and sellers by a difference of 7 million, in other words. And you can also do this by volume. So if you want to print candles only when there's 10 million contracts sold or bought, this is what your chart's going to look like. And these can come in handy whenever you have certain strategies based around volume or volatility or delta. Like if you want to know when there's a lot more sellers stepping into the market, you can, or buyers, you can do a delta of 30 million. So for example, this candle here, there were 30 million more buyers than sellers, or 30 million more dollars worth. Now I don't personally have any strategies based around that, but I can definitely see the value in having some information like that. Let's go back to the 1 hour. So now let's move over here to this tick function. And what the tick is going to do is it's going to change where your text information is. We kind of have to blend two things together here in order to understand exactly what I mean by this. So just bear with me here. Okay, so a tick is going to be, sorry about that, my dog is barking. A tick is going to be at what measurement we're looking at the buyers and sellers, or whatever information we decide to put here, because that can vary. So it says 1 tick is equal to 0.5 or half a dollar. So every tick now is going to measure the buyers and sellers within a $5 range. So this is a $5 range from 38,235 to 38,240. So all the buyers and sellers that bought in that $5 range are going to be here. If you want a bigger tick, like to go up to 20, you're going to see the price difference change. So it's just the range at which you're measuring a certain aspect of the market, right? It doesn't matter what tick you're on, it has to do with your style and your trading style. So yeah, just keep that in mind. All right, we're going to go back and we're going to start to, we're going to start to go over some more things here. Okay, so next to the tick we have the cluster. And so there's two different things here. Actually there's three, but two main ones. You got profiles and you have clusters. Profiles are going to look more like a profile of your face or whatever. They're going to show like a side view of what's going on. So in the volume profile we have here, and this looks a little bit tacky because of the color scheme, but just don't worry about that. You can see where the majority of the volume was done in the candle. For example, here you can see a lot of volume is done in these areas, and it looks like we're finding some kind of, bottom here or some evening out after this little drop. Okay, so we got the volume profile. You've got the delta profile, which is the volume. It's the exact same thing, but it's letting you know where the buyers and sellers dominated. So obviously the red are the sellers and the blue are the buyers. So you can see exactly at what prices people bought. You can see in these candles here a lot more people, the buyers were a lot more dominant in these green candles. And the BidAsk profile is my personal favorite because you can find certain patterns here. Like for example, before this reversal, you can see, there's a lot of activity here, and there was a lot of selling here, but yet the market went up anyways. You can kind of infer that there was probably someone here with a big limit order that absorbed all these sells, and price went up anyways. So these people were wrong here, okay? And there were a lot more people wrong than there were right in that particular time. Okay, so we got the BidAsk. It basically just shows you the sellers on the left and the buyers on the right, obviously. That's my favorite one to use. The volume cluster is not going to look like that. These are clusters. They're different. They're going to show you information, and they're going to highlight, the more important areas. Like the darker areas, the more volume. And if you have text in here, you can zoom in and see what all this says, right? So you can see exactly how many sellers there were, exactly how many buyers there were. You can change it to the delta. It's going to show you that information. Delta cluster, same thing, except you're looking at delta instead of volume. And then the delta ladder is basically going to show you where the important buys and sells were and where they weren't were, or where they aren't. Now you have to bear with me here. I'm a trader. I'm not much of a teacher or speaker, so I might screw up sometimes, but it's just the way it is, right? Can't be good at everything. Okay, so let's go back and let's go to the BidAsk profile here. Now, when we're really zooming into the market and we're looking at the text is going to be the data that you're collecting, right? And you want to see. So if I want to see the volume, I can look in and it will just show me the volume of what happened at this price range and in this candle. So there was 3.4 million in this one total of sellers and buyers. Now, I don't see why you would want to use the volume over something like the BidAsk or Delta, because you can infer a lot more from these things. Like the Delta is going to show you in this price range there were 2.2 million more sellers than buyers, because the Delta is a negative 2.2. Excuse me. And you can also do the BidAsk, and that shows you exactly what's happening. So there were 1.7 million sellers and 1.7 million buyers. You can also see this happening in real time here. So right now there's more people buying than selling at this current second. And the imbalance is the same exact thing, except what this does is it works diagonally. So let's take this 1.5 million, for example. So right here we had 383,000 contracts bought, and down here below that we had 1.5 million sold. So there's an imbalance. There were people buying higher than the majority of sellers, and that takes a little bit to get used to. Another example would be here. The imbalance is highlighted because there were 200,000 people buying, but below that there were 4 million people selling. Here's a buying imbalance. There were 391 people selling, and diagonally and up there is 1.6 million people buying. So there's an imbalance of buyers and sellers. Okay, and here's where you can change the type of candles. Like a lot of times I don't even use candles because I'm looking at TradingView, right, on another monitor. And this particular program is, I mean, candles are relevant, don't get me wrong, but I'm looking at other data. I'm not looking at the candles all the time. But you can change it to a mono candle, color candles, flat candles, the high-low, which is kind of interesting. You can just change it to whatever, you know, floats your boat, really. Or you can look at TradingView, which is what I do. I'll leave like a clear candle on there just so I can kind of look at it, but I'm more interested in the data of what's happened. Okay, so now it's about to start to get really interesting. You have your basic volume here, which is cool because I mean, it's just another way to look at things. I'll show you something here in a second. The T count is the trade count. So what's really interesting here is you can see in the trade count, in the volume candle that's green, there were actually more sellers than buyers in this green candle. So what does that mean to you? Think about that. You can highlight where the liquidations have happened, which are all over the place. Perpetual futures and highly leveraged markets are a money grinder. Most people just throw their money in and they never see it again. This FPBS stands for footprint bar statistics, okay? And this is highly customizable. This is what I use because I've kind of got my strategy in such a way where I've cut a lot of the fat out, but you can add a lot of things in here, okay? So you can do volume, you can do CVD, which is cumulative volume delta. You can do the points of control, the high-low, the time, the trades. There's all sorts of interesting things you can do, and you can have like 6 or 7 of these rows stacked up on top of each other. I'm just using the volume and delta right now because that's what I want to look at, okay? And you can customize the colors and all of that. There's all sorts of schemes you can do. And this is also where you can, if you click on this, you can export as a Excel file, and it will export the history, and you can find certain patterns if you're good at data crunching. And the trade size is the next one we're going to turn on here. You can kind of see what this does. The trade size is very interesting because you can get in and see, look over here to the right, it says the 500,000 contracts and above. You can see what they're doing. Are they buying or selling? And you can look at all these different size players, and you can even look at the people who are under 7K and see what they're doing. and you can see, okay, well, more bigger players are doing X, Y, and Z. Maybe I should follow them. Now, no, it's not saying that's a good idea, but it just depends on your strategy, because a lot of times these big players are wrong as well. This is the candle statistics. Shows you the volume and delta, things like that in a numerical form. You might like that. The delta bars is not something I use a whole lot. I just use the average here to look for what's called CVD divergence. I sometimes look at that. The chart's getting a little crowded now because I'm just opening up everything to show you what you can do. But yeah, the CVD is a very interesting thing. You can go and look up a lot on that. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. And I'm going to turn some of these other things off because we're about to run out of room here. Okay, here's another thing that is kind of my bread and butter. I really enjoy knowing these statistics here. So we've got the open interest. The open interest is going to show you the complete amount of contracts open on Bybit. So right now we're looking at 1.3 billion. You have the net longs and the net shorts, and these can be looked at in a histogram format, or you can look at them as like a chart, kind of. Sorry, it's not really functioning the way I thought it would at the moment, but either way, let's turn back on histogram mode. I think there's like a small bug with that or something. Let me try it on the shorts. I might have to email them and see. Yeah, either way, point being, you can see how many open contracts are long at the moment, and you can see how many open shorts are. So here a bunch of shorts got closed out, as you can tell. A bunch of people open longs. It's just interesting data that you can really put together some strong strategies with, I believe, especially in the futures markets. And then here's the volume weighted average price. I believe that's what that stands for, the VWAP, whatever you want to call it. I never use this, but there's a lot of traders who have some really good strategies that mix like volume or delta in the VWAP. So there's all sorts of different stuff you can do, like, you know, crossover strategies, stuff like that. Anyway, let's get back to the basics here. I'm going to go ahead and turn the volume off. Okay, so that kind of covers, oh, let's go over here, sorry. There's a save template, which will automatically save the template. I don't want to do that. You can export templates and stuff like that, so if you want to share some with your friends or work on stuff together, you can copy and paste templates. It saves as a text Word document, and all you do is you go over here to template, and you can import one. Here's import, and then you paste it in there and save it. Default, we'll send it back to default. This is a screenshot thing, much like TradingView has, but it's a little bit weird. You have to click download in order to save it, and then to get a link to share with your friends, oops, you can like auto tweet it. You copy this right here, and that's pretty cool. Okay, let's move over here to the left. Let me turn this off. This is kind of loud and annoying. You got your settings here, which you can change all sorts of stuff in here. Okay, this is kind of more advanced. You probably want to go with default until you get like kind of comfortable with this stuff, because you can change percentages, like the value area. Do you want it to be 70% of the candle or 70% of the volume? Do you want it to be 50%? Those are things that, like, once you start to get surgical with your trading strategy, then I would recommend messing with that. If you're an artist, this is probably your favorite spot. You can change all sorts of colors and make it very visually appealing. I'm not great with that. I did do my own colors on this one, but some people are just, naturally gifted at that. I'm not. Okay, so here we go. Here's where it starts to get kind of cool too. This is going to be completely foreign to you if you're just used to a regular candlestick chart. Okay, so we've got the marker settings here, right? And you can customize these, but the ones I was using, they show up on the right hand side here, and you can put them on the left. These are totally customizable, but I have mine on the right here. And this stands for the previous day value area high, the previous day point of control, and the previous day value area low. A lot of times, these areas are of significance, and they will have reactions. For example, the reason it was the point of control is because the most amount of volume was done there in the previous day. So depending on what the market does, you have upside down traders that are looking to get out at this area. Previous week value area high. There's all sorts of different ways you can customize this. Like, for example, let's open up the settings. You can do developing day, previous day, developing week, developing month, and previous month. So you can look at all those very important areas. I'm going to turn that off. The value area. This is a customizable area. So let me take the candles off so you can really see this. Okay, so when the value areas is not highlighted, it looks like a normal BidAsk profile. But then if you do the value area, it darkens the areas that less volume was done. Like 70% of the volume will be highlighted, and the other areas will be shaded dark. So you can see when price was way out of the value area. Point of control. If you noticed, a bunch of places just went gold on the chart. That is the area where the most volume was done within that candle. And so you can highlight that for future reference. And you can also do naked points of control. Okay, so what a naked point of control is, basically it's a point of control that has not been tapped yet. So let's take this top one, for example, here. A lot of trading was happening in this area and price never came back. So we know there's a lot of upside down traders there, a lot of upside down traders here. And if price comes back, we're likely to see a reaction off of it. Let me turn this off. We've got the composite profile left and right, which these are the same exact things, only one takes up the left side of the space and one takes out the right. Let's go to Delta Cluster. Turn this on. So we're looking at the right side and the left side. They both have the same options. You can put each tool on whatever side you want. And there's all sorts of stuff. You can do the Delta profile, BidAsk profile, the DOM, things like that. The TPO is something I don't use, but a lot of people do. It has more to do with time and volume than what I use usually. There's probably some really good tutorials on how this works for free on the internet, on YouTube. This is not my area of expertise, but the TPO is there for your use if you want. And what the tree is, you should be using this on TradingView, by the way. One second. It's a way to organize the things you have. So let's say I think that 41,000 is an important area, and I draw a line here. I can now manage that in my tree, so I can look at it or lock it in place, whatever I want to do. I can turn it on, off, like let's draw another line here, and we can look at this and manage these things within the tree. That's all that is. Oops, sorry about that. And we can do whatever we want. I really enjoy this stuff, so it's pretty cool. All right, I think that's almost it. Actually, let's go down here. Sorry, the Discord link for the ExoCharts Discord is invaluable. Like, if you're into Discord, join that group if you like this, and people will answer any question you have. They love to chat about it in there. And then here we go. We have the session, which will draw lines. If you're not familiar, the session is the trading day. Like every 24 hours, a new session will start with Bitcoin. You can divide it up into the hours. I think that this starts to get real nasty and not really relevant to me. And you can have the X grid and Y grid on. Let's take some of this stuff off. And you can have your crosshair on and off. This will kind of like reset the chart, things like that. No big deal. That's all personal preference stuff. So yeah, I think that that was a pretty decent overview. At least you can start clicking around and seeing what some of this stuff does. I know it was kind of long. Like I said, I'm not a teacher. I'm a trader. So hopefully, you know, it was bearable. And what I'm going to end up doing is probably making a few more videos that are more about application and how you would actually use this trading. But since I've spent so many years like learning this stuff, I'm going to have to do a paid course or something like that, because you can't give this information away for free on the internet, because it just doesn't work that way. I'm not going to do it, and It's just not a good idea. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. I may even put a Telegram link in there so we can start a little group if we want about just asking each other questions or helping or whatever it is. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you all have a great day, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.